Yeah, is witherswhisper.com. And I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and, Twitter, Instagram, all those fun places. Yeah, look me up and send me an email.
Well, what you can do tomorrow is send me, a link and all that stuff to your website, and we'll promote it off of our website also. And I just want to say I enjoyed talking to you tonight. I mean, I learned a lot about what you're doing. I learned a lot about, what it's be like being a criminal attorney. Now, Michael, before we let her go, any last questions from your side?
Well, I just am very excited to hear this idea that you can use therapy combined with horses to really help people out. I mean, that's really an interesting way to go about it. I can't wait to learn more about how you do things and refer folks to you that I know. That would be nice.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed talking with both of you this evening. And like I said earlier, I was excited just because you had the same name as my dad.
Definitely. And say hi to your husband for me.
Right, I will.
Okay. Well, hey, again, thank you for being on Night Dreams. Really appreciate having you on as a guest.
Thanks. It was good talking with both of you. Good night.
Good night. Now, Michael.
Yes.
Going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. It seems like there's a lot more UFO and alien, reports now than there ever has been. And it seems like it's just picked up in the last couple of weeks. Is that just my imagination?
No, not at all. That's exactly what Peter Davenport has been telling me. Peter, of course, runs the National UFO Reporting Center, and I've been the attorney of record for the National UFO Reporting Center for the last 24 years, so I keep up with the reports that come in from around the country and literally around the world. He is feeling that there is something coming to a head at this point in time for some reason. More interesting sighting reports, typically of these orange fireballs as well that come across the horizon. They're not necessarily falling to the ground like meteors. They're just kind of flying through the air horizontally, and maybe even have a short tail of fire behind them. And also the whole idea that Peter was talking about just recently, within the last 2 weeks, these entity sightings of potentially aliens that people are reporting. Actually, in our neck of the woods, up here in the Pacific Northwest, and we were talking about Newberg, Oregon, and Tillamook, Oregon as well.
Well, we ever figure how many miles apart is that? I mean, I'm kind of curious. But again, do you realize that if they can transport themselves across the universe or wherever they're coming from, for portals or whatever, maybe 10 miles or 50 or 100 miles is nothing. They could just transport themselves almost instantly with, even away from their craft that they came in. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm looking at the map right now, Gary, to be able to tell you that Tillamook, Oregon is very close to the coast of Oregon, out here in the west. Also, I'm looking at it's very close to Cape Mears on the coast of Oregon. And Newberg I'm looking at as well on Highway 47 east of Tillamook. It's not more than 100 miles away. These two potential sighting reports of on-the-ground aliens being seen by credible people.
Yeah, it's just not that. It's what's being seen everywhere. Out of curiosity today, I posted a little thing, and even last night, basically mentioning, about aliens. I mean, do you feel like they're friendly, furry, lovable creatures, or do you feel they're here to basically, to stock up on their food supply? And a lot of the comments I got emailed from people and all that stuff were, they are coming back and saying that, they're like coming and harvesting either parts of humans or for parts or to eat or whatever. And a lot of people were overwhelmingly talking that way versus the saying that they're friendly, warm little things that, you know, like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's obviously two schools of thought on that whole idea. The one thing that you hear from the media and the movies out there typically is that these aliens are a threat and always the evil entity out there to deal with.
They could be.
And then of course, go ahead.
I said they could be. They really could be.
Well, exactly, and then you realize, I'm sure, that there's more than one group of aliens visiting this planet, and how are you going to distinguish between the good ones and the bad ones, or the bad ones and the worst ones?
Yeah, so, and every day, maybe a different species out there could be discovering Earth, coming from that signals we've been sending out for the last 50, 60 years out in space. They're really inquisitive what beings is on this planet.
Mm-hmm. And exactly, 1940s, we actually were sending off the first atomic bombs, and probably that kind of a message into space wasn't real positive either.
Well, so and then in broadcasting and TV around 1946 or 47.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. What I'm kind of a little concerned is what the report this guy told me that looked like they were holding weapons, which you're saying Peter Davenport is saying that their person is saying that they didn't have any weapons. I don't know in the case like that. I mean, if I went on to a strange planet, I don't think I'd be going on a strange planet without some type of protection because you don't know, what could happen. And even if you can control somebody's mind, I mean, let's face it, all of a sudden, if you had a big task force of cops or National Guard or whatever, black ops coming where, I would think they would want something to protect themselves to like, hey, bye, guys.
Yeah, and, the Tillamook, Oregon sighting that you're talking about with the sighting of three or more aliens that looked like they had weapons with them and then disappeared, actually faded or cloaked themselves.
Yeah,
right?
He said that they were there and then instantly they were gone.
It kind of is very interesting to think that if they have that ability to cloak and disappear right before your very eyes, why would they even need weapons to begin with? Maybe the weapons are used for something more nefarious than just protecting themselves, because obviously they could protect themselves by becoming invisible at any time. So that does bring
maybe I have to look at it this way. I'm just a talk show host, right? So I know nothing about this stuff, Michael or Mr. Paranormal Lawyer. Maybe they're not disappearing. Maybe they're sending some signals to our brain where, you don't see them, but they're still there. And the weapons are there naturally just in case something happens. I don't know. I don't know. That's what got me a little bit concerned right there is, that, again, from what you said, that Peter Davenport said, and I didn't hear that part when he was on your show, but, these people were about 7 feet tall and around 180 pounds, which puts it kind of, they would have to be thin at that. Yeah. But the guy did say they had a kind of a bright metallic like uniform, but he didn't mention anything like you were mentioning that Peter said about, like a vest or boots and stuff like that. This guy didn't mention anything about that. He said that they're ugly, really ugly, and that he saw. And they didn't turn their face away from him. And they actually turned and stared at him and then, vanished.
Wow. The fact that the witness was shocked at the fact that they were so ugly, so shocking probably to his normal senses is very interesting because I have not heard that very often in the years I've been studying ufology. I've always heard, of course, the the large black eyes, potentially the screen memories that are given when people sight aliens that might even think that they're seeing a deer or a raccoon, something like that.
Or owls.
Or an owl, yeah, like the author that you interviewed recently. But Peter did say it's kind of interesting correlation between the Tillamook, Oregon sighting of these ugly aliens and then the Newberg sighting of these other two tall aliens, again, was the fact that the aliens at Newberg, when the gentleman was driving slowly past them, trying to get a good look at their faces, both simultaneously turned their faces away from the gentleman as he was driving by, not wanting him to see their faces. So that's a wondering kind of thing about, well, what did they look like? Did they look ugly as well?
Yeah, that's my concern right there. I don't know. If they're even connected together, or are they connected together? In a case like that, you have to understand, you're out there, right, driving with your family, and you see something like this, or anything, your imagination goes wild because part of your brain tries to tell you that can't be. The first thing I would think if it happened to me, I would think, oh, gee, look at these people dressed in costumes. There must have been some costume party, or, some people play like, how you call it? They go back to medieval times or the Civil War time, and they dress the parts. And, maybe, in this guy's mind, because I don't know his brain and how he thinks. But if I saw something like that, the first thought in my mind would be, well, somebody's playing Space Wars or doing something like that. But from what he described, what they looked like, he just said they were ugly to be the worst. He said, quote unquote, they were so ugly, you take the worst, the worst case scenario of ugliness and scariness and put it together.
Wow. And the fact that these two sightings were maybe not more than 2 weeks apart in the same general area, not more than 100 miles away, of aliens on the ground in the state of Oregon, the odds of that has just got to be astronomical.
Well, then it tells me maybe they're still there even today, maybe, again, they always talk about, especially like off of California, they're supposed to be an area where UFOs go submerging, into the ocean. Well, Tillamook and Newberg is not that far from the ocean. Have you tried a straight view, like airplane view from, not road view? Because if it says 100 miles, you're probably only about 40 miles away. I mean, especially in Oregon, the way those roads are, believe me, I've been through some of those roads, especially around Tillamook years and years ago, taking pictures. I mean, it takes forever to get from point A to point B because they wind every which way. But in their case, they probably don't have to go on those roads. They'd probably just transport themselves somehow from, point A to point B. So then, that 100 miles probably drops down into maybe 20 or 30 or 40 miles.
Yeah, when you look at Tillamook, it is, not more than maybe 25 miles from the ocean.
No.
And, of course, Newberg is maybe, if you went for a crow's fly type of line, it's got to be probably less than 50 miles away from Tillamook. So
yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, it's very close together. And the fact that two sightings of that dramatic the sightings being so dramatic, being so close together in time and in location, that's just the astronomical equation there is very strange.
Well, I think we're going to hear a lot more, me and you, on your show and my show, because, as you know, I've been talking a lot about UFOs lately for the last month on my show. I kind of drifted away from doing ghost hunting or mystics more than right now into UFOs because the activity on UFOs is really expanding faster than people comprehend. It's so many weird things going on. I mean, seriously, is our planet facing doom or something? I mean, you talk about like this rogue planet, Planet X. Maybe they're aliens or these species or wherever they're coming from are visiting us just to see